When people talk about world building, they usually mean fantasy. But what about hip-hop? What if some of the most vivid, layered worlds were crafted not by novelists, but by MCs?
That old real shit.
From the vivid narratives of Slick Rick's children's story, the realism of Nas Illmatic, to the cinematic journey of Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City, hip-hop has always been a powerful vehicle for storytelling. As someone who tries to make sense of the world through the lens of hip-hop, I've been asking myself whether hip-hop can build immersive worlds the same way literature does. In this series, I'm exploring the art of world building, comparing the worlds created in novels and movies with the sonic worlds built by some of hip-hop's greatest storytellers. But to understand how hip-hop builds worlds, we first need to ask, how does literature do it? You ready? Some games, books, or movies do more than just tell you a story. They give you a place to be. A place so vivid, so immersive that after you finish, you cannot stop thinking about it. And that's exactly what great world building does. It pulls you in and keeps you there. So what exactly is world building? World building is the systematic construction of a fictional reality governed by consistent rules, institutions, geographies, and social dynamics. But where do authors actually start when they want to create a world? There are different ways to approach world building, but at its heart, it's about answering some of the most essential storytelling questions. What does this world look like? What's the geography of this world? The climate, its history? How does this world work? What are the rules, the political systems? Language, the religion, is there magic? Is technology important? And who holds power in this world? Who lives here? What kind of people inhabit this world? Do they live in cities or villages? Are there guilds, gangs, influential houses? And who affects this world? And how does the world affect them? Who are the characters that will challenge the way things are? Once an author has an idea how this world might look like, next they have to build the world, step by step. There are different approaches, but in general, authors have to decide in which order they answer these questions. The top-down approach. This method starts with the big picture. Authors first sketch out the entire world. The geography, political structures, religions, mythologies, historical events, and power hierarchies. Only after laying this foundational architecture do they zoom in to tell the story of individual characters. A classic example is J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. Before Frodo ever left the Shire, Tolkien had already created multiple languages, complete with grammar and etymology. He drew maps, outlined the histories of different races, and detailed events that spanned thousands of years. This approach gives the fictional world a deep sense of scale and coherence. You feel the structure, the history, the weight of time. Characters are shaped by institutions, customs, and legacies that predate them. Top-down worlds often feel mythic and monumental. They offer the reader a sense that there's always more just beyond the margins, that the world continues even when the story ends. Or there is the bottom-up approach. Here we start small, maybe just a single village or character, and build outward as needed. That gives authors flexibility and lets the world grow organically alongside the story. Instead of laying out an entire map or history from the beginning, we discover the world piece by piece, as the protagonist does. This approach mirrors how we experience the real world, through daily life, personal encounters, and gradual understanding. It often feels more intimate and grounded. Think of it like learning a city by walking through it block by block rather than staring at a tourist map. Most writers blend both approaches, establish a framework but allow the world to evolve as the characters move through it. But let's ground all this theory with a concrete example. I'll be honest, I'm not even the biggest fantasy reader. I was so skeptical when I heard all of these people online suggesting Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy. Turns out it was one of the best reading decisions I've made in years. Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy absolutely hooked me. I couldn't stop reading. I would carve out little bits of free time just to get back to the story. And the main reason? Its world. So let's see how Sanderson answers these crucial questions in Mistborn. Sanderson manages to immerse you in a tangible, eerie, and mysterious world without overwhelming you. From the first sentence, you are dropped into a landscape where even the air seems to be filled with mystery.
Ash fell from the sky.
Colors are muted, if there are any in Mistborn. The ecosystem itself is broken, brown vegetation, a red sun. Everything feels like it's decaying. According to Sanderson himself, yes, his writing lectures are online and super insightful. This physical environment mirrors the emotional tone of the story. Bleak, suffocating, oppressive. It creates mystery without info dumping, using what he calls the pyramid of abstraction. The pyramid of abstraction is a writing principle that encourages authors to start with vivid, concrete details that ground the reader. Grounding the reader means placing them in a specific time, location, or emotional state before moving into abstract concepts or broader themes. It's about giving them something tangible to hold on to, something rappers do constantly, as we will see in future episodes. In practice, this means starting with sensory details, clear images or recognizable situations, something the reader can immediately picture, hear, feel, or relate to. In Sanderson's case, ash falling from the sky, before introducing larger abstract ideas like love, justice, or oppression. Think of it like a camera lens slowly zooming out. You start up close, seeing the ash on someone's shoulder, the sweat on their forehead, the sound of footsteps echoing through empty streets. Then, as you pull back, the wider world begins to take shape. The ruined city, the sky choked with ash, and finally, the broken system that governs it all. That's the pyramid of abstraction in action. Beginning with sensation and slowly revealing the idea behind it. The first book, Mistborn, The Final Empire, introduces one of the most well-crafted magic systems that I've ever seen, one that's fully integrated into the world. It is called allomancy. Certain individuals can ingest metals to gain powers, pewter boosts strength, tin sharpens senses, and so on. Each metal has a specific, clearly defined function. There are rules, and those rules drive also tension throughout the story. Later books then introduce two other magic systems, but I'm going to let you discover them by yourself. When it comes to the society and class, here's where the world building starts to feel real. The Lord Ruler sits at the top of a brutal, theocratic empire. There's the nobility, wealthy, educated, descended from those who helped the Lord Ruler. Then there's the Steel Ministry and the Inquisitors, religious bureaucracy enforcing order. And there are the Scar, the labor class, abused, uneducated, and dehumanized. This rigid social structure doesn't just frame the world, it drives the plot. Vin's journey from street urchin to revolutionary is shaped entirely by the system she's born into. Kelsia's rebellion is personal because of the world's injustice. To answer that, we have to return to the question we asked earlier. How does this world work? In Mistborn, the world works through class. The structures of power, access, and survival are felt in every breath of ash, in every act of deference or defiance. This society is engineered for separation. Nobles and Scar live in different realities, and those realities shape the texture of the world. So who lives here? The Ska work in the ash-covered streets and die in the mines. They exist under surveillance, punished for disobedience, and are denied even the luxury of collective memory. Their stories don't get written. Their pain isn't archived. And that's exactly why Calcia and Vin's rebellion matters. It disrupts not only political control, but narrative control. But the nobility aren't truly free either. Their lives are performances, defined by fashion, etiquette, lineage, and paranoia. They don't walk through the world with ease. They walk with calculated steps. Every interaction is a transaction, every conversation a chess match. The ministry enforces these divisions like a theological machine. Its priests and inquisitors serve as both judges and enforcers, reinforcing a system where divine authority and political power are indistinguishable. This entire society, its language, its rituals, its architecture, is structured to keep people in their place, which is why the characters we follow matter so much. Vin begins as someone beneath notice, an orphan, a thief, a scared girl who blends into the grime of Lutherdale. But as she rises, we see how her very presence threatens the system. Every step she takes upward is also a fracture in the world's foundations. And that's what makes this question, who lives in this world, inseparable from how does this world work? Because to understand Mistborn's world, you don't need maps and lore. You start with people. People who are crushed. People who adapt. People who resist. The world's design is exposed through the movements of the people who inhabit it, through the way they survive. One thing great world building does, something you will see across all great stories, is connect the outer world to the inner world of the characters. The world should reflect or reveal something about the people living in it. That's exactly what Abby Emmons breaks down in a video on character-driven world building. I will link it in the description. It's worth checking out if you want to dive deeper into that. When the external world mirrors the character's inner journey, the setting becomes a participant in the story. A crumbling city can echo a protagonist's broken spirit. A never-ending winter might symbolize emotional numbness. A vast, oppressive empire may externalize a character's feeling of powerlessness. This technique deepens immersion because the reader or viewer or listener are feeling it through the emotional filter of the character's experience. Think of it as a dialogue between the character and their environment. The world pushes on the character, challenges them, shapes their choices. But at the same time, the character's perception, desires, and fears shape how we see the world. So the question, what does the world look like, turns to, what does it look like to them? When the world reflects the character's emotional state, we stop seeing it as separate from the story. Every detail starts to feel loaded. The landscape holds weight because it feels like it's pressing on the characters from the outside, while echoing what they carry within. It's this fusion of emotion and environment that gives a world its gravity and keeps us locked in. And that's what, in my opinion, really elevates the Mistborn trilogy. The way the world building is tied directly to character. Vin exists, shapes and reflects this world. She starts as someone who has been used, abandoned and trained to trust no one. The misty, broken landscape and the same forces that poison the world, oppression, secrecy, fear, also live inside her. As she gains power, the world pushes back. Her actions change the world, and the world in turn changes her. That's what Sanderson calls reactivity. The idea that a fictional world should respond meaningfully to the choices of the characters who live in it. World building is not about encyclopedias or endless maps. It's about building a world that breathes and pulses, one that puts pressure on the characters, a world that means something. Once a world is imagined, someone has to guide us through it. But who is holding the map? Who decides what we see and when? There are so many different approaches to this, I'm only going to mention a few in this video. Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy conveys world information in 3 different ways. First, Mistborn is mostly written in third-person limited, which means we are inside the head of one character at a time, primarily Vin and sometimes Calcia. This limited point of view is key. We only know what Vin knows or senses. We discover the world alongside her. When she learns about allomancy, the magic, so do we. So, the narrator tells a story, but filtered through Vin's evolving perspective. Second, at the beginning of each chapter, we get short excerpts from a mysterious document written in the first person. These are not from the main narrator. Early on, the reader doesn't know who this voice is, but it gives context to the mythological and historical backdrop. Third, we are being informed about this world through in-world characters. Characters like Sazette, Calcia, Doxon, and others help fill in information through dialogue. Often exposition is embedded in conversations, especially when teaching Vin or debating tactics. Through action, we learn rules of the world by watching characters use magic or navigate class systems. And there are also teaching moments. Calcia trains Vin in allomancy, so readers learn by proxy. But different stories choose different guides, narrators, documents, shifting points of view. So let's take a look at a few examples. In Margaret Atwood's dystopian Mad Adam trilogy, the first book, Oryx and Crake, introduces its world through the limited perspective of a character called Snowman or Jimmy, alternating between two timelines. In Year of the Flood and Mad Adam then, we follow the same timeline as in the first book, but we shift the perspective to two other characters, Toby and Ran. So we have parallel narrative arcs that overlap with the first book in the series. I recommend this book, it's really worth a read, not only for Atwood's great world building. The Red Rising series by Pierce Brown is more straightforward when it comes to world building. We follow Darrow and learn about the world in real time with the protagonist. As he moves from the mines to the Institute, we go from claustrophobic caste system to a brutal Roman-inspired ruling class. The effect is one of gradual expansion. The world gets bigger and more complex as Darrow's perception does. Also worth a read, Red Rising, Pierce Brown. Check it out. Hyperion by Dan Simmons is structured as a frame narrative. 7 pilgrims are on a journey to the so-called time tombs on the planet Hyperion. During this voyage, each one tells their story along the way. This is really interesting because each character narrates in a distinct voice, genre, and point of view. And through them, the reader encounters different facets of the same universe. Hyperion suggests that a complex world cannot be captured by a single narrator or viewpoint. This mirrors the fractured nature of reality. Everyone sees a different world depending on the position in the world. As you can see, world building doesn't happen in a vacuum. It always has a voice. Whether it's filtered through a single mind like Vin in Mistborn or Jimmy in Oryx and Crake, spread across multiple perspectives like in Hyperion, or delivered through in-world documents and dialogue, that voice shapes what we know and how we feel about the world we are stepping into. So when we ask, who introduces us to this world, we are really asking, whose eyes are we borrowing and what are we allowed to see? So, what have we learned? World building is not only about lore, maps, or dragons. It's about constructing a living, breathing environment. A space where people, power, memory, and emotion interact. It's about crafting a world that responds to its characters and leaves a trace on its readers. In the next episode, we are leaving ash and magic behind and head somewhere very real. Queensbridge, New York, 1994. We're exploring the sonic world of Nas Selmatic. Alright, see you there. Peace.